Hello and welcome to another How I Painted. Today I will be painting a Gloomhaven Scoundrel. I primed in white with a rattle can, and I'll be beginning with a mixture of moldy ochre and bloodstone for the pants and skirt. I mixed the paints on a wet palette, off screen. I also paint the little money bag she's holding with the same color. Next I use bloodstone for the boots, or shoes as they may be. Put down another layer of the moldy ochre and bloodstone mix. Strengthen the color. I use Gnarls Green from P3 for the green parts of the mini. I will include the chest, the high area of the thigh, the back. I use Scorn Red and Bloodstone. I mix these together to make a brownish red for her gloves. I didn't want the gloves and the boots to be the same color. Or, I think more importantly, what I wanted is the glove to stand out against the money bag. So I added red to Bloodstone, Scorn Red to Bloodstone. I use this color as well for the belt and the other glove. Again, because I didn't want the color for the belt to be too similar to the color, the moldy ochre and bloodstone mix I had for the skirt there. I needed the color to stand out so you could see the belt. I use Battle Dress Green for her sleeves, because on the art it's a different shade of green. I thought this would work well. Next I use Midland Flesh for her face and neck. This flesh tone I have to layer on a couple times after letting it dry to get a strong color that isn't too transparent. Next up is pig iron. I'll be applying this to the metal vambrace, I suppose, and the knee pads. And the elbow pad. I think I go with gold on the shoulder pads. Now I'm going right out of the bottle here, but it's a little bit ill-advised. You want to make sure that doesn't dry on your brush, and it's more apt to if it's right out of the bottle. Oh, she's got little darts on her wrist there, so I'm carefully just getting a little bit of the pig iron on them. She's also got ninja stars, which are easier to see on her bicep, so I want to hit those with little pig iron as well. And yes, one little kunai looking thing. Like I said, I gotta go over that a couple times. The Midland Flesh. Next is Moldy Ochre. I'm not sure how I feel about this choice. I decided to paint the sheaths for her blades Moldy Ochre. I think the yellow, it doesn't really sit well. I think it stands out, it clashes a little bit. It's so bright, and it's probably one of the brightest parts of the model, and it's on her hips, drawing attention kind of away from her face. So I think in retrospect I would have painted this something darker. Moldy Ochre also, being such a light color, requires quite a few coats, so it was also time consuming. I used Bloodstone again. Yes, for the little straps holding her vambraces on and her other widgets. This was good to have such a fine-tipped brush for this. It's worth it to invest in a good brush if you take care of it. Because having a fine tip just makes everything go so much faster. A little X pattern there. It was a challenge. I believe this is the Bloodstone and Scorn Red mix. Yes, and I go back in to paint the handles of her various weapons. The two little swords on her waist and the one on her back. Back to Moldy Ochre, like I said, that took a couple coats. Next up is Rulic Gold. There are quite a few gold bits on this model. I do all the hilts of the swords, the pommels, the shoulder pads, as well as on the chest there's a little design, a V design. paint that gold as well. There's also not a gem, but a circle in the center of the V. I paint that gold. Scoundrel is a little gaudy. Yeah, this requires a little bit of attention to detail. Don't want that gold to go everywhere. If you mess up with gold, you can paint over it, and that's what I would recommend. Sometimes I wipe away paint by getting my brush wet and then coming back to the model and wiping it out of that. I don't recommend with metallics if you do that. As the little metallic flakes will just flow everywhere and those won't come off, and then you'll just have a weird shiny look on the menu that's hard to remove. You could paint over it, but that'd be a headache. I realize I didn't get all of the pommels there, or I guess that's the sheath actually. Next up is Battlefield Brown. I use this for her hair. I forgot to, I use this is the Scorn Red and Bloodstone mix again. So I use Necrotic Green for her. I wanted to get I use it for a couple things. I use it for the sheath here on this. It looks like a special sword. It's big. I also use it for the sword she's holding and her eyes. It seemed like there were buckles on her shoes. I could not find the detail, so I just kind of painted it on with pig iron. I use the Thamar Black for her mask, and then I'm going to come back with Necrotic Green after the black is dried and put a little bit of a watered down blob of Necrotic Green in her eyes, and then on the spot of her eye I'll put a dot of white. Meantime, I'm highlighting the hair with Bloodstone and Battlefield Brown, making sure to only paint the high parts of the hair by kind of running the edge of the brush, not the tip, across the surface of the hair, so it just catches on the raised hairs. Here we are with the Necrotic Green for the eye. A lot of the characters in Gloomhaven seem to have glowing eyes, so I'm trying to make that effect. I want the sword to have a glow effect as well, so I paint it Necrotic Green here, and I try to kind of leave a little bit of the white. I realize afterwards that the white is not bright enough, so I go back in with Morrow White and paint in white on the center areas on those three sides of the sword, front, back, and top. Then I come back with Necrotic Green and paint another layer, and the white underneath shows through, which gives a little bit of a glow effect that I was satisfied with. And Morrow White as well for the dots of the eyes. Need a really fine tip for that. And that is it before the quick shade. Oh no, there's one more detail. I forgot. 2 more details. I highlight with Quicksilver. Here are metallic areas. Then I wanted her to look feminine, so I make a mix of Sanguine Highlight and Midland Flesh, and just get a little bit on the lips. I didn't want it to look like she was wearing really bright lipstick or anything, but I did want to give her some lips. Alright, afterwards I use Army Painter's Quick Shade Strong Tone. I use this to protect my minis as well as to shade them. So I just get this all over the mini, very liberally, just splattered around. You see I have a paper towel there, and that is because after I've liberally put it on, I start taking some off. I make sure it doesn't overpool in any of the recesses. If you let that happen, it'll knock out your detail. I also wipe it away from the feet to make sure it doesn't pool there, as that would look kind of strange. Then I let this dry for 2 full days, because that's what it says to do on the can. And after 2 full days, I spray on some Testors Dull Coat, because Quick Shade dries very glossy. There's a couple puffs of that. It's quite easy to do. And then after that dries, we'll have our finished product. I think she is looking quite good. She's one of my favorite of the 6 starter Gloomhaven minis that I've painted. This mini took about 1 hour and 10 minutes to paint, start to finish, including the Quick Shade and the Testors Dull Coat. And that wraps up how I painted Gloomhaven Scoundrel. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, happy painting.